Part 9. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 82. After chanting, I felt that speaking to a bird such as a chicken/beast completely played the piano to the cow and simply pouted. The chicken was persuaded by Yanj again, and he smashed a melon seed and pressed his own careless liver, then slowly said, "Well, in fact, there is still a chance to come back when the task is not over. You send him to prison like this task can't be turned over." Yanji rolled his eyes. If he really went to prison, maybe he would open the door to the new world and really explore the situation, and he wouldn't be able to live in it for long. When he came out, I still regarded him as my brother. Man, I do know how to cherish it, but maybe he won't realize it until then. Chicken. Every time it can't find the fault in this wooden discourse, but every time it listens, it feels that this guy is full of crooked truth. It was weak and said, "Do you say he will go to the police station?" Whether he can go or not, human nature is complex, repeated, and selfish. Yan Ji guesses that Chi Yuan will not go, but whether this man can go or not, it has nothing to do with her now. She wants to air him now. Chicken, don't you go out and chase him. Maybe he was moved, and you will be the leader in the rest of your life. Yanj sneered, "I hook my fingers, countless people will look at me first, and my bed companion is more. Do you think I lack him?" After waiting for the chick to respond, she said angrily, "I want him to be my little brother, but I don't want him to be my bed companion." The chicken was silent, and always felt that the wood was showing off in disguise, hemp eggs, and it was very upset at the bottom of his heart. "Actually, I think you still talk about it, because he didn't take your pajamas last night. Like us divine beast, once you encounter a pleasant opposite sex, the first thing is to put it on pajamas. As long as it is taken by our male great shore pajamas, you will not be a demon in the future. You are so full of resentment now, actually because your body wants to be dissatisfied." Word song. Chicken, it may be that he is young and can't satisfy you. Hey, speaking, he is really small. Word song, ==. Where is this special filthy beast? She remembered that when the geek system was not bound, the beast could only count the hair on her body every day. Why now, with a mouth full of trains? The system has contaminated the chicks. Yanj endured the mess in the wind and asked it, "Where did you get these fallacies?" "What's a fallacy?" "This is my thousands of years of beast experience. How do I feel that you are different from before?" Chicken, you used to have only yellow hair. Didn't you notice that your heart is also yellow now? Thank you for the compliment. The cub heard that his neck was high and his small were bulging up. He fluttered his wings and stood firm, and said proudly, "I like yellow." His dream is that one day he can become a beast that grows yellow all over the body. Your preference has changed a bit. Yanj couldn't help but sneer. Actually, I'm not complimenting you at all. You have a bit of a bad idea. Have you been stimulated recently? The chicken rolled his scornful little eyes. I study human nature day and night in order to help you complete the task. You are better. If you can't complete the task, come to me to vent, just careless. Yanj is very focused, human nature. As soon as the waved, it was surrounded by floating screens full of videos of various men's and women's sports. No, not only men and women, but also animals. Yanji almost blinded for a moment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 83. The chicken said ostentatiously, "There are many ways to help people in the system to complete their wishes. N is too much. I haven't finished it till now. After I read it, it should be regarded as this line. A master's presence." Words of song. Master, it's almost wet. What a ghost system is totally bringing bad kids. She stared at the tall with the raised tail because of her pride. For the first time, she showed a pitying expression to this guy. You have to see what this means. it depends on your spouse. Suddenly you feel so poor. This 10,000-year-old single beast of chicken, every time, is very envious of the jealousy that songs can go to men in the plane. Although the species is different, it may relieve loneliness. It can't enter the plane, even if it is a different species, it can't find it. Here. Yan Ji's words were completely poking at his heart. It whispered, the screen around it disappeared, and the pride of its whole body was gone. He pulled his tail and head down and fell to the ground weakly. He said, I want you, I must hurry up and roll the sheets with that powerful 1 minute, and sleep to break the sleep of him. The powerful one is so rare, you don't know how to cherish it if you don't take the opportunity to meet him. I still poke my sore spots like this, it's all about being hungry. Song. There was such a little guilt, she thought about it, and comforted the beast, when I get stronger, I will find a way to keep you from being trapped in the space. The chicken rolled his eyes at Yan's song, I'd better rely on you than my 5 girls. Song. She and the beast never had a common language, so they resolutely withdrew. Yan Ji guessed right, Chi Yuan did not go to the police station. He went to the notice as usual and appeared in front of the audience, and recently he starred in a TV series and joined the crew. He did not contact Yanj and did not explain, it was as if he had completely broken the relationship with Yanj. The chick was so angry that he jumped and scolded the wolf every day. Songs of songs are unconscionable. So human beings, especially men, are actually inferior. Don't worry about Chi Yuan's affairs, Yanj took the time to take Su's father and mother to travel around the country. Although Chi Yuan hasn't contacted Yanj, this guy still has a thick face and often calls Su's father Su and his mother. From time to time, he also takes the time to visit Su's father Su and his mother, as if he never happened after those embarrassing things. Since he is willing to be a filial son to make Su and Su happy, Yan Ji will not tear him apart angrily. The two left and right did not meet each other, and she was happy to have one more person remembering Su's father and mother. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 months passed. When Yanj vomited uncomfortably for the nth time, the assistant around him joked jokingly, "Isn't this pregnant, Sister Su?" Yanj raised an eyebrow and smiled, "Oh, maybe I'm pregnant, you dangle in front of my eyes every day. This kid won't be yours." I just passed the joke, but Yan Ji remembered it. She asked the chick in confusion, "Is this body pregnant?" The chicken is also aggressive, "I don't know, you are pregnant and you don't know it yourself? Can't you control this kind of thing? Hey, she's personal now, she can control a fart." She has never been in such an accident before in the plane. Since she is bound to this geeky system, she is in a state of great danger. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 84. Yanj really regrets that he was bound without studying the research system. Doesn't this system have any golden fingers? Yan Ji asked unhappily, what is the difference between this system and garbage? I think it's quite advanced since the cub entered the space of the fandom system, he feels that he has lived a fairy-like life. Except that he has no spouse, he is satisfied with everything. It must be to help the system speak, of course you have to rely on yourself to do the task. Only by yourself can you get more soul sources. If you rely on cheats, it is no different from cheating in exams, and the soul sources you get are also unstable. Young man, avoid being impetuous. Yanj didn't have the energy to fight with this guy, mainly because the system was already tied up, and she had to work on it all the way. It is useless to investigate now. The first time she bought a test strip, she was really pregnant. Would you like to be born and see what it is? The cub suggested curiously. It's a shame that the child was not born last time, and I don't know what you will see when you combine a tree demon with someone. Say no, it must be a demon. Dog/fart. Yan Ji was so angry that he was about to jump off his feet. I am a person now, a complete person, and I was born as a person. What kind of dog/fart is, you can think of it? What makes Yan Ji angry most is that this child is regarded as a messy product. When she thinks that this is Chi Yuan's baby, she is very aggrieved. Perceived that she was out of control, Yanj took a breath and calmed herself, comforting herself. Forget it, it's not bad to give birth to Su father Su mother. Mrs. Su's father, Mrs. Su, urged her to continue to marry and get married, and even launched her neighbors to arrange several rounds of blind dates. Alas, every time you go back, you have to read that she won't get married again, and it will be difficult to have children in the future. Father Su and Mother Su always look forward to her getting married and having a baby, and then take their grandchildren out for fun. Well, she can give Su and Su a grandson without getting married, and solve many things at once. Thinking about it that way, Yanj is no longer worried. She is a very easygoing person, arranged the work of the studio, applied for a foreign tuition class, and then she went abroad to raise a baby in the name of studying abroad. Ling Yanj was rather surprised that she met acquaintances abroad. The acquaintance was Wang Xiaoming. Wang Xiaoming didn't mix well in the entertainment industry. His ugly materials frequently appeared. Later, some people reported that he gathered in the hotel to take drugs. People in the entertainment industry are probably not short of money and too much excitement, so many people like to those things. Everyone knows things well. He was reported like Wang Xiaoming, basically because he kicked an iron plate or provoked a villain. Public figures revealed such a thing. Even if they wanted to go through the back door, Wang Xiaoming was sentenced to 8 months in prison. After he was released from prison, the entertainment industry could no longer accept him. So he disappeared for a long time. But this state didn't last long. He turned from behind the stage and behind the scenes, and funded himself to make online dramas. In the entertainment industry, the big stars are now paid too much, and the TV series are difficult to pass. Internet dramas are indeed the first choice of many emerging directors. Before Wang Xiaoming's online drama was filmed, he was led by the boycott. The boycott happened to be Qi Yuan. This guy directly named on Weibo said that if such a person as Wang Xiaoming could make a comeback in the entertainment industry, it would be a real sadness in the entertainment industry. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 85. Wang Xiaoming bought several media people to bite a bite, saying that Qi Yuan was a little white face raised by his ex-wife, and of course, it was accompanied by graphics. Yanj quickly hit back and exposed his family's huokao. Qi Yuan was in the family column of Su Fugu's son relationship. So Wang Xiaoming got a bit hot again. This time everyone was shouting to get him out of the entertainment circle. The online drama he was planning to shoot did not come out, and he disappeared again. After so long, Yan Ji did not expect she would see Wang Xiaoming abroad. What surprised her was that Wang Xiaoming was not with his little sisters, but a fat woman who looked older than Wang Xiaoming. The fat woman seemed to be pregnant. It's here for inspection. Fat women wear all kinds of luxury goods. When walking with Wang Xiaoming, the bags were all held by Wang Xiaoming. The relationship between the two is delicate, and Yan Ji can see it at a glance. This time I wanted to come to a woman who wrapped up Wang Xiaoming. Wang Xiaoming, who has been packing little girls all day, probably didn't expect that she would be wrapped by an old woman one day. Yan Ji narrowed his eyes and retracted his gaze. Wang Xiaoming obviously saw her and recognized her, but did not come forward to answer. However, when the fat woman entered the birth examination room, Wang Xiaoming, who was waiting at the door, stepped in front of Yanj and sneered, "Who is the child in the belly? Will it not be that little white face? You are really pathetic." Everyone thinks Qi Yuan is the younger brother of Yanj, but Wang Xiaoming never thinks so. Two people are not serious brothers and sisters, that is, doing things in the name of their sisters and brothers. Seeing Yanj, Wang Xiaoming would think of his past life. Everything about him was ruined by this woman. Even if he tried to suppress it now, it was a look of shame. Yan Song looked up and looked at Wang Xiaoming with pity. The child in my stomach, I'm sure it's mine, but your baby, can you be sure it's yours? Don't be a catcher before or after a run, pathetic, and see where your aesthetic regression is. Wang Xiaoming couldn't say a word of Yanj. He was afraid that the fat woman would come out of the house, so he stared at Yanj fiercely and immediately stood in front of the door, like a dutiful dog. Yanj didn't take it to heart. Now Wang Xiaoming can't keep her eyes open. But her phone was blasted that night. Someone exploded in the media a picture of her sitting at the entrance of the birth check, saying that she was not studying abroad to give birth to a gimmick. These people also vaguely meant that the gimmick of the song was Qi Yuan. Yan Ji's clothes are large and casual, but she can't see if she is pregnant. Yan Ji first called Su's father and his mother, soothed the second old man, and said that the news was nothing. She accompanied her friend to the hospital and was filmed. When she hung up, she made another call to the studio and asked the studio to issue a statement. Qi Yuan also called her several times. But Yanj did not respond. Aren't you going to let him know that this is his child? In fact, it's not bad for you to take advantage of the situation. He has a child and a wife. Maybe he will investigate the situation. The chick lacks a spouse, so its point of view is always derived from itself. Yanj made no comment. This child has nothing to do with him. Since he can't break it, he's a tow bottle. I meet his needs, and who will meet me? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 86. You didn't find another man, it means that you still care about him. A woman is like a wolf and a 40 is like a tiger. You immediately entered this threshold. Are you sure you can stand it? You don't look at other men, and you don't want to be with him together, you're still aggrieved yourself. Yan Song. There is still a fundamental difference between the thinking of humans and beasts. Chicken, I find your point is always so amazing. The cock's boasted tail was raised. Of course, I'm a beast. Words are speechless. She felt that she should focus on how to find a spouse for the chick. This 10-year-old virgin/man has been increasingly unable to suppress her own power of famine, and she is speechless by the mouthful of her train. Qi Yuan was perseveringly calling and found that Song did not answer his call. He simply dialed someone else's cell phone. Unfortunately, Yanj's cell phone shut down directly. When the baby in the belly reached 7 months, Su's father and mother Su contacted her emergency contact number. Xiao Yan, a Yuan has a car accident, you come back and see. During the time that Yanj went abroad, Qi Yuan always ran up and down the Su family. Su's father Su mother, like Yanj, really took Qi Yuan as his son. Yanj flew back to China for the first time. Qi Yuan's condition was very bad. It was a car accident when the nanny car rushed into the night. The driver had already hung up. Qi Yuan had not been awake in the emergency room. Su's father and Su's mother stared at Yanj's belly in surprise. Yanj explained, I don't want to get married for the time being, but I want to have a baby, so I made a test tube baby. What about A Yuan? As soon as the discourse turned to Qi Yuan's matter, Su's father and Su's mother also couldn't help asking Yanj's belly anymore, and set Qi Yuan's affairs again. The nanny car was hit by an overloaded van. The compartment on the van was overturned, and the cargo inside was dropped. Many of them crashed into the nanny car. The driver in front of the car died on the spot. Qi Yuan and an assistant in the rear car were seriously injured. The assistant has been awake, but Qi Yuan has been in the rescue room for a day and there is no sign of awake. A lot of reporters outside the hospital came to hear the news. After all, Su and Su were old. Fortunately, there was a team behind Yan Ji and Chi Yuan. Chi Yuan's situation is not suitable for transfer. Yang can only call the trustee to find some well-known doctors recommended by the hospital director. No matter how much money he spends, he can invite these well-known doctors in the industry. This guy may really hang up, the chicken said, a little bit worried. His life star is getting dim. Yang was curious, is this how he lives this time after joining the WDO? Mighty men are darlings of heaven, others will hang, and he can live well. But this time the situation is not right, he was so easy to hang up in this face, and I don't know if someone wants to blame him for change his life, what to do. If he hangs up so quickly, you will certainly be damaged, after all, you are connected to him now. Song. There is a numb criticism that I should not talk about. If it weren't for her prenatal education, she would have scolded on the spot. So she not only has to be responsible for his love, but also his life. This guy was so distressed that he didn't pay anything, so he asked her for such labor for free, and she really admired him. The release of the Buddha was to confirm the words of the chicken. The door of the rescue room, which had been operated for more than 10 hours, opened again. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 87. The doctor walked out of the operating room with a tired face and said with words, "The injuries in other places are not fatal, mainly in the heart. If it doesn't work, try to implant an artificial heart." But he doesn't know if he can afford to undergo an artificial heart replacement. You need to be mentally prepared. He may be in danger. And even if the operation is successful, there will be a rejection reaction at that time. His current body is too fragile. If there is a problem with rejection, he will also kill him. Yang followed the doctor all the way into the office. During the analysis of the various life-threatening risks of the doctor, she interrupted the doctor and said suddenly, "Use my heart." She is a tree demon herself, and she has plants and spirits that can absorb all life. This is why many hosts die, and she can still use the host's body to stay alive. Her abilities can only be applied to the host. Therefore, she can only exchange her angry heart with Chi Yuan. The doctor didn't seem to think that Yang would say such words. He was rubbing his temples in exhaustion, and he looked up at Yanga with a surprised look. "Do you think changing heart is easy? Artificial heart will reject, yours is no exception, let alone you can change it if all the indicators match. Do you think you can change it? If you are a pregnant woman, even if you don't want to be yourself, you have to think about the child in your belly." Yang interrupted him, "I and his heart will be fine. I exchange my heart for him. I use an artificial heart. My child will be fine." The doctor resolutely rejected her proposal. Picking an intact heart from a living person and giving it to someone else is not something a regular hospital can do. Yan Ji did not insist on her request anymore. She had a cesarean operation that day, and only told her father Su and Su that her body was too weak for premature delivery. Father Su and Mother Su worry about the baby, and they have not paid much attention to Chi Yuan's side. Most of them are talking about Chi Yuan's condition. This injury, for Yan Ji, can heal with a little bit of his own ability. However, she has always been lying on the hospital bed, using only her mobile phone to contact and arrange staff. When Chi Yuan's condition was slightly stable, Yan Ji was transferred to hospital overnight, and Chi Yuan was transferred to a relatively small private hospital. The hospital is too small. She rented or bought all the surgical equipment. The staff had been arranged, and when they entered the hospital, they entered the operating room as soon as possible. The operation took 3 days. Although Yan Ji was anesthetized, Her consciousness was very clear. In the same ward, two people are undergoing surgery together. Qi Yuan fused her heart smoothly, and because of the angry in her heart, his body function was also recovering quickly. However, the condition of Yang is not very good. One of the biggest sources of energy for a person to live is the heart. The host's established fate should die when she enters the plane. But it has always been her tree that is absorbing the angry donor-host body, and now her heart is gone, just like one of her most critical energy converters is gone. She could feel the weakness of her body. It was a weakness that was on the verge of death. This body can't last long in this plane. On the third day after the successful operation, Qi Yuan was directly sent to the VIP room of one of the best hospitals in China. Yang was also admitted to another large hospital. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 88. Yan Ji's body is very weak, and her physical condition does not want to be known to Su's father and her mother. Therefore, Su's mother directly said that it was a postpartum hemorrhage. Both children were hospitalized one after another. Su's father and mother were worried and anxious every day, and there was no doubt about him. Qi Yuan was in another city, so after discussions with Su's father and his mother, Su's mother kept the words and the baby, and Su's father went to keep Qi Yuan. These two children, Su and Su, are now treated equally. Qi Yuan's body recovered better. Even the doctors in the hospital said that Qi Yuan could recover so well after a heart transplant, which is like a miracle. But comparatively speaking, the words are not so good. The angry of the body is passing away very quickly. This caused her body to become weaker every day. She could even keenly feel when her body would completely bleed the air. It has been dead countless times, so I don't have much feeling about death and words. She was worried that if she hung up so early, the host's task would be judged as a failure. The evaluation criteria of the geek system do not know whether it is determined according to the wishes of the host, or whether there is a self-contained evaluation system. When Yang asked about her worries, the chickens rarely saw tears. Probably not. The chicken was completely white before entering the fandom system, and there was also some uncertainty about it. You are not the same as the host at the time. You found a son for Su, and gave birth to a son. Granddaughter, and the marriage with Wang Xiaoming is also broken. Although this operation is very expensive, but you also left a little legacy for Su father and mother. Even if it does not fully meet the wishes of the host, it should not be complete failure. This uncertain analytical discourse of the chicken can't appease Yang's heart at all. The words are very melancholy. She has experienced a series of failures one after another. Under various brainwashings of the chick, she has begun to deny and doubt herself. Is it true that there is something wrong with her mind? However, even if she was worried, she would not show it. Especially when Mother Su was there, she looked no different from normal people. He was even discussing with Su mother to name a little song for the baby. After the baby came out of the incubator, Mother Su also put her baby beside Yang's bed and let Yang look at it. I can't believe this is the life she gave birth to. Yan Ji looked at the little guy around him gently, but his heart was voicing, it's ugly. Really ugly. Did not inherit her and Qi Yuan's handsome genes. He must have inherited Qi Yuan's parents. The baby looks too much like a little word in our family. Look at the eyes and mouth, they are carved out of a mold. At first glance, it is mother and daughter. Mother Su always looked at her granddaughter with pride, and greeted her daughter. To be honest, she and the old man were always worried that their daughter would give birth to a foreign devil, and they were relieved after the baby was born. Hearing the words of Mother Su was very calm. This is nothing like bragging her equals. When Mother Su was absent, Yan Song spent most of her time arranging his own funeral and several unfinished plays. Her doctors and nurses repeatedly asked her to rest, and even suggested that if she could not sleep because of pain, she would take some medicine, but she refused. She has limited time and cannot afford to waste it. In view of the fact that someone in the previous chapter said that song would change his heart to Chi Yuan, my friends would not be so vague as to read the text. You think she loves so much that you have no choice but to change it. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 89. Chi Yuan has been awake for a month. His body improves every day. All of his friends, colleagues, and journalist fans have come to see him. Sue's father was always by his side, and Sue's mother came to visit him from time to time. Only her, never appeared. From beginning to end, nothing happened. Every day the door rang, his heart would lift up, but the voice of chatting outside could be heard, and his heart would immediately fall back to where it was. He died once. The feeling of always struggling on the road of life and death, he felt like a big dream every time he thought about it. Life was too fragile, he never thought he would be so close to death. So when he was awake, he had an increasing desire to stay with her forever. The ward was always quiet, especially when he wanted to be alone in the sterile ward. Every day with his eyes closed, the walls and the cold medical machinery around him were cold. Time is too hard, and I will remember the past again and again. He still remembers that when he walked out of her room that day, his face was blank, and he even had the illusion that he had been abandoned by the whole world. Although he came to the gate of the police station, he did not enter. Will she sue him? At that moment, he suddenly felt a little bit sad. He didn't believe that she would really sue him. He didn't believe she would really send him to prison. He didn't go into the police station, but he didn't have the courage to go back to find her again. After so many days, I didn't wait for her to go to the police station to sue him. He knew it later, and suddenly understood her intentions. She never thought about sending him to prison, she just wanted to cut him off in this way. Does she hate him? He didn't know that he did exactly what she wanted. He didn't dare to see her and didn't dare to contact her. He only secretly collected all kinds of news about her over and over, and went to visit his father and mother every time an excuse to try to meet her. Obviously in the same city, two people seem to have become two worlds since that day. Chi Yuan really regretted it? Don't regret it at the beginning. If he hadn't been so aggressive in the beginning, maybe they are still living together under one roof, eating breakfast together, having dinner together, sitting on the sofa and watching TV, gourds, gossip circles together when they are not busy. However, there is no if. He can still remember that when he heard the news about her production inspection abroad, he was excited to explode. That must be his child, he knows too well, it must be his child. But he heard her explain to Sue's father and mother, it turned out that it wasn't. It's just that she accompanied her friend to the checkup, and she was waiting outside. Yes, how could she have his child? She has always regarded him as a younger brother, and she can never let this happen. Therefore, it was his delusion. He thought that if she wanted his child, she would definitely want him. For a long time, she always looked back at him. But he waited and even flew abroad to visit her in person. But I did not see her. Is she still angry with him? How long does he have to wait to get angry? Chi Yuan did not expect that she would be so angry that she would not come to see him even if he was dying. Is it possible that she really wants to die with him? But he walked through the gate of the ghost door and knew that life was short. He didn't want to waste the rest of his life with him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 90. When living in the hospital for the second month, Chi Yuan's body suddenly showed signs of rejection. Chi Yuan, who had already been discharged from the hospital, returned to the intensive care unit again. He knew afterwards that his heart was broken, and now his heart was a heart donated by others. It was also his luck that happened to meet a suitable heart. During the rejection period, Chi Yuan almost took the medicine as a meal every day. Because of the drug, he became fatter and his hair was shaved. He had secretly looked in the mirror, and now he is ugly and fat. He looked forward to her every day, but at the moment he saw himself in the mirror, he hoped that she would not show up, lest he look so ugly. He instructed Sue's father, "Sister is not easy to study abroad. Dad, you and Mom, don't tell her about me. If she sees the news and calls you, you say that the news is mutual, and you say I just got a minor injury, so I'm fine." Sue's father heard that. The old and muddy eyes fell on Chi Yuan's body, opened his mouth, and finally said, "Okay." Chi Yuan began to struggle with the disease. He told himself that if he could survive this time, he would bring the ring to her to propose to him, and no matter what he did, he would marry her home. He wants to marry her, to have children with her, and to become a real family with her. He never wanted to waste time reconciling her opinions. But the body is either out of condition or out of condition. Sometimes he couldn't bear the pain, and thought he might as well die. Just thinking, if I could see how good she should be before she died. When thinking this way, all the hatreds in her heart are all hate and resentment towards her. How could she be so cruel? He was dying, and she didn't even look at him. Even if Sue's father and Sue's mother were hiding her, the news about him was so overwhelming that she should come to the hospital to visit him in person, even if she had some slight concerns about him. She whispered that he was being treated as a brother, but now he was dying and she didn't look at him. Even if he had done such a wrong thing, could she not give him a chance to change it? He was full of grievances and hatred, and he was unwilling and angry. In the end, however, all this hatred and grievances turned into everyday expectations. She must have not heard from him. Or, she guessed that he was injured, but because of previous events, she was unwilling to face him. Yes, with her pride and willingness to repay, she would definitely not bow to him first. He must cooperate well with the treatment, he must get better quickly, and then go to her to admit wrong and repent. As long as she can forgive him, he can be whatever she is then. Every day, these thoughts fought in the minds of Chi Yuan. These thoughts propped him up, making him go on miraculously every day. He often stared at her phone number with her mobile phone, or stared at her photos. Probably because of her study abroad, the media did not have any news about her, and even her Weibo has not been updated for a long time. He could only read the news that belonged to her before. In a blink of an eye, a year has passed. Chi Yuan almost took the hospital home. Fortunately, this year has not been wasted, and he finally no longer needs to stay in that boring and monotonous sterile ward. He can go home. It's nice to go home. The doctor said that his body was not a big deal for the time being, as long as he took care, a long life would be fine. But what he was most concerned about was that if he changed his body, could he slap? Will high-intensity excitement irritate his little heart? The embarrassment he asked, the doctor was accustomed to, and seriously asked him, it is best to be gentle and not too irritating. If he is so young, if she is too mild, would she like it? She wasn't very satisfied with her at first, and if the bed skills weren't good, she would hate him even more. Chi Yuan felt that he suddenly had a big worry. Seeing that there were not many messages in the past 2 days, everyone couldn't stand the tragedy. Wrong, chubby heart and wide body fat have always been happy texts, but because the plot behind the spread, these two planes have a bit of tears. However, it's going to be fine right away, dryly insisting on seeing me and seeing me. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 91. Although Chi Yuan's discharge was not publicized, he was informed by the squatting media that he was blocked by the media as soon as he left the hospital. Fortunately, the staff around him helped to open a road for him to get on the car smoothly. Chi Yuan first returned to the apartment where she lived. The room was empty and there was no sign of her coming back, because there was no one living for a long time, and even the table was still ashes. He stood at the door and remained motionless for a long time. It was as if she could hear the soft voice she had when he took him back to the room for the first time, but her sight was gone. At this moment, he suddenly regretted it. If he knew she would be so angry, he wouldn't break the barrier between them. Sue's mother called and asked where he and Sue's father were. Chi Yuan then remembered that maybe Sue's mother knew her phone number abroad and he returned home. Sue's mother would definitely report the incident with her, so he was excited returned home with Father Sue. As soon as he entered the room, Chi Yuan saw a small bean point struggling to climb on the sofa. There were two little girls with pigtails on their heads, and when they heard the door rang, they turned their heads, and round eyes stared at Chi Yuan who entered the door. Chi Yuan was also staring at her. The four eyes are opposite, all curious. The little guy who had just climbed half of the body forgot to keep holding onto the sofa cushion and fell on the floor with a thump, crying the next moment. In the kitchen, Sue's mother heard the cry and stepped out to hug the little guy to soothe. Chi Yuan looked at the delicate eyebrows, like the little girl of Ji woman, standing in the door for a while, unable to respond. Su still waved at him with a smile. Yuan, hurry up, why don't you stand still, stupid? He then reacted, and took a few steps to get in front of Sue's mother, trying to pick up the child in Sue's arms. Sue's mother passed the child to Sue's father, and said to him, "Where's Zioch, you? She's still ill, don't let her put you on you." Chi Yuan nodded. Since entering the door, his eyes have been staring at the fluffy little face of the little guy. Sue's father and Sue's mother made a look without any trace. Chi Yuan changed his heart, and the doctor specifically ordered that he could not stand the stimulation. Chi Yuan was brought back by her daughter, and she always respected her daughter as an elder sister. Therefore, the death of his daughter was discussed in private by Sue's father and his mother. They must not tell Chi Yuan that they would not be able to bear it. They have lost their daughter, and their son finally found alive. They must not let their son have any accidents. Therefore, before Chi Yuan was discharged from the hospital, Sue's father and mother had agreed and unified the caliber. Sue's mother didn't know how to lie, so she shouted, "The kitchen fire is still on, I'm going to cook first." Then she went into the kitchen again. Father Sue teased the child in her arms, listening to her stumbling shouting "Grandpa," and pointed to Chi Yuan and said to the baby, "This is your grandma," called Grandma. The baby apparently hadn't reached the point where she could learn to speak. She stared at Chi Yuan with watery eyes and yelled a few times. Sue's father motioned to Chi Yuan to sit on the sofa with him. Before Chi Yuan asked, he sighed and whispered, "This is your sister's child." The baby's facial features are too much like words, and Chi Yuan had this speculation at this time. At this time, Sue's father confirmed that the heartbeat seemed to stop at this moment, and his brain was blank and hopeless. "Is she married?"